change the world. My final message. Goodbye.
Hey, thanks for coming back to the Down and Out Designer Show. I truly am glad you're back. On the last episode, we made a SoundCloud album cover for my boy Goose Nailton. Today, we're making another album cover, but we're switching up genres big time. Powder your wigs and fluff your ruffs in preparation for Max Shaffer, an insanely talented classical guitarist. Here, take a listen. Bravo, Max. Bravo. Anyways, Max just wants a cover because his album will only be available digitally for now, but we're extra here at the Down and Out Designer Show, so I'm going to go ahead and design packaging for it as if it was going to be printed. And who knows? Maybe it will be. I think I'm going to make a 4-panel CD wallet. I chose this because it would be fairly cheap to produce compared to jewel cases, and I think we can make it look nice. Max has given me a title of his album and a track listing, as well as a selection of photos I should use for the cover. Shout out to Andrew Chu for shooting these photos. He also shoots beautiful music videos with Max that you should definitely all check out. I'll leave a link in the description to Andrew's Instagram page and a music video. I decided on using this photo as the cover. Before we get started, I want you to humor me for a second and look up classical guitar album covers in Google. You'll probably notice a lot of them are not so great. There are some exceptions peppered throughout for sure, but for the most part they are definitely not good. Go ahead, look it up. I'll wait. You see what I mean? I got the pleasure of talking to Max about some particularly bad album covers, in my opinion. Here are some snippets from that conversation.
I'm familiar with this guy's work. He's a great player, but I think there's a little too much going on
Yeah.
in the background and the walls. I kind of like that he's in the hallway. Like it provides like a focal point. But yeah, I think it's just a little too busy.
Yeah, it's also, I just thought this one was funny because the typeface is totally like sorority girl vibe. With like the swirly COPLA.
Yeah, I could, yeah. I think the photo itself is okay. There's just a lot of editing going on there.
Yeah. It looks like one of those fantasy books.
Right.
You know, where they have like a woman standing in the forest next to like a wolf and it's like a photograph. And like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I think like, obviously, yeah, go with some coloring, I guess it's okay, but like it just seems like there's those splatters you can kind of see towards the bottom, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like those are edited in there, and like they edited in some sort of like texture, it looks like, onto the cover as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's just a lot going on. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to say this. Like, I understand why, but like, why? It's the same problem with the other one, right? Except now it's worse. Yeah, like the typeface too.
Yeah, what's with that?
Yeah, I think right, like I think anything can work, if it's given the right context. So like I think that typeface could work for something. I just don't think it's true.
Oh, my personal opinion is that this typeface wouldn't work for anything.
You don't want to use Comic Sans for my cover?
I mean, if you like wanted it with your entire mind, body, and soul, I would do it for you. I would sacrifice my portfolio for you.
You don't have to put it in the portfolio.
Anyways, our goal today is to not make a bad album cover. We're out here trying to flex on these Baroque musicians. Let's get started. Alright, welcome back to our overpriced software. The first order of business is to get rid of the ground in the background. We'll do this by selecting the ground with a couple different selection tools here. A few notes for you aspiring Photoshop whizzes out there. Always edit on a new layer so you don't ruin the original picture. That's non-destructive editing. Also, instead of painting black down here to cover up the ground, I'm going to use the stamp tool and take some of this black from up here. The reason is, I want the black down here to match the black up here, since the black in the photo isn't actually 100% black. I'm afraid that if I just use the black paintbrush, you'd be able to see the difference if it gets printed. Now I'm just going to go around and clean up some of the rough edges using the stamp tool to feather in the background. I know there's probably an easier way to do this, but we're still learning here. The last thing I need to do to this photo is to color correct it. It already looks pretty good straight out of the camera. Shout out Andrew Chu again. But it does look a tad yellow and green, so I'll just push it a little more red. Pro tip, when color correcting, always lean towards red instead of green and yellow because corpses are weird colors like green and yellow. Red is more lively. Here's the original photo, and here's the edited photo. For one of the panels in the 4-panel CD wallet, we are going to use this photo that was provided. We'll just bring it over to our software for a simple color correction, and it is done. You may notice that I flipped the image. I'll explain why I did this a little later, but I promise that there is a method to my madness. Okay, now for the fun part, designing the thing. It's really just going to be a task of picking a few fun typefaces and placing around nicely. And oh boy, did I play with a lot of typefaces. I'm sure you're watching me flail around in the background, but I promise you that I do eventually come to a decision. At first I had this idea in my head that I wanted a stark contrast between the typefaces I used. For example, here I've made Max Shaffer a sans serif typeface, and the title, Lost to the World, a serif typeface. Spoiler alert, this is not the strategy I end up using, but it's what I was thinking about at the time. Here I am playing with the placement of the words in Lost to the World. I like the idea of being lost and thought that maybe the type could be placed in unconventional places to convey the idea of being lost. After being a bit lost myself, I decided to take a break and design the back of the package. This is a pretty straightforward 2-column affair. Since this is a classical album, we want to be pretty formal in our design approach to match the vibe of the music. Now for the side where the disc will be housed. I wanted this to be super simple and super colorful to contrast the black and white of the front and back of the album. I chose this yellow initially because it matches Max's guitar. When you open the flap on the left side, I want you to see the picture of Max that we edited. Since it has some cool colors in it, I used the color selector to sample some of the colors in the sky. You may notice that this image that I flipped earlier is no longer flipped. There was some confusion and I used this one originally. I noticed that what are called the psychic lines are pointing the viewer away from the disc. And the reason why I flipped it earlier in the video was because I wanted Max to be looking generally in the direction of the disc, so your eyes are brought into the packaging instead of away. I end up flipping it back to how I had it before, so no worries there. Now, I go back to the front cover to see how those new colors I just picked work on the type, and of course, experiment with typefaces for another hour. Finally, after messing around with Lost of the World, I settled on this formatting. I wanted the word lost to be lost from his buddies on the right. It's a little more toned down from what I had before, but it works and I don't think it's as confusing as what we had before. There, that's nice. Back to the disc pocket thing. I'm making it the rusty orange color that we sampled from the sky earlier and adding the album name on the cover so that when you open it, the name will be in the same space but on a different background. Well, our packaging would not be complete without a CD label to match. We'll take our assets from the cover and slap it on here. We just gotta wrestle with the type and cram it into this space. Alright, that's pretty clean. And we're finally done. Psych. I'm making a last second change to the typeface of Max Shaffer. Everything I told you earlier in the video about contrasting type, just go ahead and throw it out the window. Here's a digital mock-up of what our 4-panel CD wallet would look like. I'm pretty proud of this. Proof that if you like classical music, you don't need to settle for terrible album artwork. Alright guys, let me know if you like the packaging or if you think it should be banished to bad classical album art hell. Catch you on the next episode. Peace.